The reality of government is you must make decisions. The joy of opposition is you can just complain about decisions. Which brings us to Airbus Albo. Again, all excuses, all window dressing, no action. Now, as you know, he spent a third of his time as Prime Minister overseas, bringing with him $100 million cheques to have a selfie with Volodymyr Zelensky. Any Australian Prime Minister gets to meet with the Quad or go to NATO. There's nothing special about Anthony Albanese. But this bloke is going to go overseas again at the end of this week. Now, remember when a Prime Minister who's not there on the front lines filling the sandbags was a national disgrace. Well, of course, all is forgiven now because that French castle has got all those people around it defending it. All the people who attacked the previous tenant are all on side now to guard it. But this program, my job, is to tell you the truth. A lot of people get off on saying they speak truth to power. Here's truth to power. Get on with running the country. Make decisions to improve people's lives, not just sit back and triage the problem. Imagine a heart surgeon that just said, that's going to get worse before it gets better. No, you're in charge. You're responsible. The politics will mean that they can blame everyone forevermore. But the reality is we will speak truth to that power, no matter how uncomfortable that is, no matter what enemies that creates for us. And while my Christmas card list shrinks by the hour, my loyalty is to you, because you are the one who has to pay. You are the one who gets screwed over. It's not good enough to feel people's pain. If you're in a position to make someone's life better and easier, do something. Speak up. Make decisions. So, of course, while Albo was off on his $100 million selfie, and remember, this was hardly an act of bravery, the actor Ben Stiller, the bloke from Something About Mary, was able to do it. Sean Penn was able to do it. This is not the green zone of Baghdad. Well, of course, you would have thought that the opportunity to go to the Ukraine might have been cut short because, as you know, there are yet again once-in-a-century floods that are happening right now around the country. But here was the coverage in part of the media today. That while they said that he was blasted, the ABC just easily said Anthony Albanese defends himself. And what about this? Imagine if the former bloke had said this, what the reaction would be. Well, I will judge this bloke by the standards he judged the last. Because those are the standards that apparently if you walk by, then you don't believe. Remember, we talked a lot about how Albo cannot walk the talk. Well, here he is the second. A little bit of nuggety smell starts to make its way into that brand new car, that he's spending too much time peacocking overseas. This was his excuse about why we should feel sorry for him.
There's been criticism over the international travel you've done. Have you managed to strike the right balance between overseas and domestic priorities?
Well, I have attended the Quad leaders meeting the day after the election. That wasn't a decision of mine to hold the election on May 21. That was a decision of the former Prime Minister. Those people might like to say which of the events that I've attended on behalf of Australia that I shouldn't have attended. I have not had a day off for a very long period of time.
Oh, darling, you haven't had a day off. If only there were other recent examples about people who were pilloried when they did take a day off, when there was a national scandal because somebody had some time off with their family. Welcome to the reality of the job, pal. The job that you applied for. The job that you were obsessed with getting, that you got fit and you did everything you could to win it, and you won it. You won the trust of the Australian people. I don't care that you have not had a day off in 6 weeks, darling. Toughen up, princess. It's the big chair. You will have the rest of your life, when your prime ministership is over, to have a nap. Till then, you're in charge of the joint. And again, when he was asked about the standard with which he judged the previous mob, watch the answer.
Well, as Prime Minister, you are copping some criticism. Were you, in hindsight, too harsh on Scott Morrison for supposedly going missing? Even there was criticism when he had COVID of him not being at the floods from people in Labor. Have you made a rod for your own back now in terms of expectations of a Prime Minister in terms of national crisis?
People want to argue I'm not working hard, then they can argue that case.
No one is saying that. What they are saying is that one of the reasons we changed was because you made the case that one of the reasons for change was the focus of the former Prime Minister. Now, I repeat, I am not going to sit here for the next 3 years fighting the last election. There's one coming up sooner than anyone will ever imagine. But this bloke, honestly, is really full of himself at the moment. And why wouldn't you be? You've just won an election. You're now one of those guys who won from opposition. You'll be a life member. They'll name an electorate after you at some point in time. The media will fight fights for you. But I'm sorry, pal. If you're starting to sook after 6 weeks, let's meet again in 6 months. Let alone, as you have said, 2 terms, which is 6 years.